to tell you something that might sound counterintuitive, especially if you've spent the last 30 or 40 years working toward the day when you could finally afford the home of your dreams. The happiest retirees I know, and the research backs this up, almost always right-sized, not upsized. They chose homes that pushed them out into the world instead of giving them more reasons to stay in. And that distinction, that single housing decision, turns out to be one of the most consequential choices you'll make in retirement. Not just financially, though the financial implications are real, but for your health, your social connections, your sense of purpose, and frankly, your happiness. If you're new here, I'm Elle, and I help people design retirements built around prosperity, purpose, and play. And today, we're going deep on one of the most overlooked aspects of retirement design: how the space you live in shapes the life you actually live. Let's start with a question nobody seems to ask. What is your home supposed to do for you in retirement? When you were raising a family and building a career, your home had a clear job description. It housed your children. It stored your stuff. It provided the backdrop for holidays and homework and Saturday mornings. It was a container for a very full life. But when the kids are grown, the career is behind you, and it's just you or you and a partner, the housing job description changes. And if you don't rewrite it intentionally, the house you're living in might be working against you without your even realizing it. Here's what I mean. A larger home in retirement doesn't just cost more. It behaves differently. It pulls you inward. There's always something to maintain, something to organize, something to clean, something to fix. And for accomplished people, especially people who are used to being productive, that endless domestic to-do list can masquerade as purpose. You stay busy, you feel useful, but you're not actually building anything. You're just maintaining a structure that's bigger than your life requires. That's not purpose. That's a treadmill with nice countertops. Let me talk numbers for a moment, because this is where the accomplished professional in you needs to pay attention. When people relocate in retirement, particularly from a high cost of living state to a lower one, the temptation to upgrade is enormous. Your dollar stretches further. A home that would have cost you $800,000 in New Jersey costs $400,000 in North Carolina or Central Florida. So naturally you think, why not get something nicer? More square footage, better finishes, maybe a pool. But here's what most people don't calculate. A bigger home comes with a bigger operating cost every single month for the rest of your life. Utilities in a larger home, especially if you're moving to the South where air conditioning runs 6 or 7 months a year, can easily add $200 to $400 a month. Property taxes scale with value and square footage. Insurance scales with replacement cost. Landscaping scales with lot size. Maintenance scales with, well, everything. I own rental properties and a commercial building here in Central Florida filled with therapists. And I can tell you from direct experience, buildings are hungry. They always need something. And a bigger building is always hungrier than a smaller one. Over a 20-year retirement, the difference between a right-sized home and an oversized one can easily amount to $100,000 or more in operating costs alone. That's money that could have funded travel, experiences, gifts to your grandchildren, or simply the peace of mind that comes from knowing your reserves are solid. Now let me get to the part that matters even more than money. And this is where I want you to really listen, because the research on this is striking. Social isolation is one of the most significant health risks facing retirees. And your housing choice plays a direct role in whether you stay connected or drift into isolation. Research has found that for older adults, the home environment can shift from being a place of independence to a place of isolation, particularly when mobility challenges emerge or when the surrounding neighborhood doesn't support walking and casual social interaction. Think about what happens in a large, beautiful home on a large, quiet lot. You wake up, you make coffee, you look out the window at your gorgeous yard, and then what? There's no one walking by. There's no cafe within walking distance. There's no neighbor close enough to even wave to. The home is stunning, but the life happening inside can become very, very small. Now, contrast that with a right-sized home in a walkable neighborhood or a well-designed community. You step outside and you're in the world. You run into a neighbor walking her dog. You walk to a coffee shop. You notice a new restaurant. These sound like small things, but they are the architecture of a connected life. And research from multiple studies shows that walkable neighborhoods are associated with better health outcomes and greater feelings of trust among older adults, which in turn are linked to higher happiness. This is not a coincidence. The happiest retirees aren't the ones with the biggest homes. They're the ones with the most touch points to the outside world. And your housing choice either creates those touch points or eliminates them. Right sizing is not downsizing. I want to draw a clear distinction here because the word downsizing carries a lot of emotional baggage. It sounds like loss, like settling, like less. Right sizing is the opposite. Right sizing is a design decision. It's asking, what does my life actually need from my home right now? Not 10 years ago, not when the kids were here, right now and in the decade ahead. For some people, right sizing means a smaller home in a more interesting neighborhood. For others, it means a condo where someone else handles the maintenance so you can spend your time on things that actually matter to you. For others still, it might mean a home with fewer bedrooms, but a dedicated studio or office for the creative work or consulting you want to do in this chapter. The point is, right sizing is about alignment. It's about making your physical space match your actual life, not the life you used to live or the life you think you're supposed to be living. And this is where I need to name the thing that makes this decision so hard for accomplished people specifically. For many of the professionals and high achievers I work with, their home has been a marker of success for their entire adult life. Every move up in house size was a move up in life. Bigger home, bigger career, bigger income, bigger life. The house was proof that you were doing it right. So when someone suggests that you should consider a smaller home in retirement, it can feel like a demotion, like you're going backward, like after everything you've built, you're supposed to accept less. But here's what I want you to consider. What if the most sophisticated move you could make is choosing a home that's calibrated to this chapter in your life rather than the last one? What if right sizing isn't retreat? It's precision. The high achievers I know who are thriving in retirement aren't the ones living in the biggest houses. They're the ones who looked at their retirement the way they'd look at any strategic decision. What are the objectives? What resources do we have? What's the optimal allocation of those resources? And when you frame it in that way, a 4,500 square foot home for 2 people is not impressive. It's inefficient. And you would never have tolerated inefficiency in your professional life. So, if you're approaching retirement or you're in the early years and thinking about a move, here are 5 questions worth sitting with. First, does this home push me out into the world, or does it give me reasons to stay in? Can I walk to something? Is there life happening around me, or am I just in a beautiful bubble? Second, what are the true monthly operating costs? Not just the mortgage, but utilities, insurance, taxes, maintenance, landscaping, pool upkeep, HOA fees, all of it. And how does that number feel balanced against my retirement income? Third, am I choosing this home for who I am now or who I was? Is this a forward-looking decision or a backward-looking one? Fourth, If my mobility changes in 10 or 15 years, does this home still work for me? Are there stairs I won't be able to manage? Is the master on the second floor? Is the nearest grocery store a 15-minute drive away? And fifth, what would I do with the money I'd save by choosing something smaller, more efficient, more aligned? Would it fund travel? Would it give me breathing room? Would it let me be generous with family without anxiety? Here's what I've come to believe after navigating 2 retirements of my own and working with high achieving professionals and others who are designing theirs. The real luxury in retirement is not square footage, it's optionality. It's the freedom to say yes to the trip, the dinner, the experience, the unexpected opportunity. Because your fixed costs aren't consuming resources that should be funding your life. A right-sized home gives you that. A home that's too big slowly takes it away month by month, year by year, while looking beautiful the entire time. That's what makes it so deceptive. So if you're standing at this crossroads, I want to encourage you to think like the strategic, high-achieving person you've always been. Don't let the emotional pull of a bigger, more impressive home override what you already know about resource allocation. Choose the home that serves your life, not the one that demands you serve it. Right size, and then go live. I'll see you in the next one.